Yeah.
Hello, everybody. We have gone live. I'm actually going to put on, oh, I can't do cameraman now because I went live. So never mind. You're going to see all the little faces on the bottom. I am Sean Adams. I am the founder here of CoachingHangout.com and these life coaching training hangouts that we've been doing for a good year and a half. I don't know what's wrong with us. So we come together every week and we talk about coaching, all things coaching, things that can make you either a better coach or better at being coached. Every week it's something different and something new, and this week we have a very fun topic, which is how to find speaking topic, or how to find places to speak, or finding speaking opportunities. That's what I called it when I made the event. So that's what we're going to be discussing today, is ways to find speaking opportunities. If people want, all they have to do is, the link has been posted in the comment section on the event page, or if you're at coachinghangout.com, you can click on the join the hangout. If this doesn't work, we are not live, watch the recording below. Join the hangout. We are live, we are here. Click that button. Unless you're watching the recording, then don't click that button. So come join us inside the hangout. Share with us your thoughts, insights of ways to go about finding places to speak. We also have a few folks who are rather very good at that are already in the hangout, who we're going to tap their geniuses for today's hangout. And that's what we're going to be doing. We are live on the page. Come join inside with us. We'd love to have you. And what we always do before we start the actual content of these hangouts is I always love to, if you're in the hangout, you're live in the hangout, you get a chance to hawk your wares, per se. You get to talk about who you are, what you do. I'm going to go alphabetical, so it's crazy that we're going to be starting with the ends, but go ahead, Nika, you're first.
Oh, hi world. I'm Nienke van Bezooij from the Netherlands, joining as a regular this hangout. I'm author of Dashboard for the Professional Speaker, so it really is connected to the topic of this week. I'm a professional speaker coach, for example, for TEDx, and I'm very excited to share some inside information with you you can benefit all from.
Excellent. Well, we're glad you're here, and we're glad you showed up, because we're going to be definitely tapping into your wisdom on this realm, since you are a speaking coach. Next up is Mr. Robert, who I know does many speeches, so he has some skill at this as well. So go ahead, Robert. Let us know a little bit about your world.
Sean is exaggerating the number of speeches I do, but that's fine. Robert McPhee from San Diego, California. I am the author of the book Manifesting for Non-Gurus. And I do speak and consult and coach. And at the same time, I'm here today as much as a student as I am as a teacher, because it's always good to be learning new and creative ways to get out there and get ourselves seen in front of groups. So I'll be wearing two hats today. Happy to share what I learn and happy to continue to learn.
Well, we're glad to have you here, Robert. Thanks for always joining us. Appreciate it. And another one of our consistent regulars, Wendy. Wendy, why don't you say hello to the world?
Hello, world. I'd just like to start my little spiel by just asking, I wonder what the most famous speech in the world is. Is it that 400 and thingy years ago one? Perhaps that often comes up as being one of the most famous ones by someone, I think in your land, or was in your land. I'm Wendy from a boutique business school. It's gone out of my head. I can't remember what I do. I'll come back to it later on. Yeah, nice to be here. Thank you.
No worries. We're glad you're here, Wendy. I have to say, it's very hard to remember to do your elevator speech at 5 o'clock in the morning, so no worries. But it's also a really interesting tidbit of why I think it's so important that we're having this conversation today about ways to find speaking opportunities. It's not about getting in front of that 1,000-person room and having that product sale and making money off the speeches. Part of the point of this the reason we were going to do this topic is sometimes getting in front of that room of 15 or 20 people where you might have one person who's actually an ideal client or somebody to connect with can be really important, because the more times you're publicly out there, the more times you're doing these speeches, the easier it's going to be for that elevator speech, that introduction, that explaining what you do to roll off your tongue. And you can practice on yourself or your cat as often as you want, but when you have to actually do it in front of a live group, doing that over and over and over and over and over again is going to make it easier for you to be able to give that speech when it comes up in just a random, unexpected time, which is why having as many speaking opportunities as you can is so important. That's why I wanted to make sure we had this topic today. So I'm going to play off of what just happened, but it was the perfect example of why this topic is so important, is because the more you do it, the better you're going to get at it. And Wendy's very good with her thing, and I'm going to once again state that I don't know anybody else who could also give their elevator speech at 5 o'clock in the morning. So I want to honor that for Wendy, but I also wanted to use it as an example of why this is so valuable. So we're going to just leave it open to the group. This is what we usually do on these Hangouts, especially when we have a topic, which we do. I'm gonna default to Nick and let her kind of start the conversation, since this is her niche and her realm and her world. So go ahead, take it, run with it, and give us a little bit of an explanation of some of the places that you recommend people going to be able to find ways of getting to speak.
Yeah. Well, before you go anywhere, you better be prepared. Anytime. You never know when the opportunity is to speak to many people, 2, 3, 5, 500, 5,000, doesn't matter. But be prepared. That's the one most important thing you have to do. So practicing your pitch, knowing exactly what you do and why you do it, and why people should come to you is very important. You say many times in just the introduction to this whole topic, you can do it easily or you can do it with ease. Well, that's why I call my system the ease system. And before you do anything, it's very wise to be aware of your right energy. And if we see the energy in this coaching group, we have always a high energy and we're always having a great deal of fun to get results. So if you don't have a high energy, you're not going anywhere. I'll just do it the Alex way. So I will say it's the energy. Can you still see it? Or yeah, energy. But energy is not the only thing. The next thing you really have to do in my system is being authentic. And we had a whole, I think, 2 or 3 sessions of being authentic, your authenticity. I have it all together. Because if you are fake in front of a group, nobody will literally buy you. Not your story, not your pitch, nothing. Nothing. They won't buy you, and they won't buy from you. And that's also in coaching. So if you don't have anything authentic, nobody will believe you. Of course, we also need speaking skills. That's if you do it on a Hangout, if you do it on just in a one-to-one, in a group, live audiences, webinars, whatever, you can't do without the right speaking skills. And it's the body language, it's the words you use, the way you resonate with your whole audience. It's very important how you do that. And if you have the right speaking skills, you need the last one. It's the speaker engagement. So you have to do them all. Make the real connection, and otherwise you can be in front of a group or search for a group as long as you will, but you won't tap into all these pieces and get a real result out of it. And getting in front of your target audience, you have to know who your target audience is and where are they. And we just mentioned, Wendy and I, just and you as well, Sean, a trainer program we all did. And T.R. Raker is very good in saying, well, you have to find other rooms. And he says their room, their room, their room, their room, and make it then into your room. It's a funnel. So if you find your speaking opportunities, well, I know you are in Toastmasters, Sean. You can be in places like that. You can be in your local library or your field of expertise, universities, whatever. It's where your target audience is. And you can just start with just giving small lectures or trainings or workshops, just to start up with. So this will be my first introduction, and I would be very happy to have all your comments as well.
Excellent. Well, I think you're spot on. The 4 aspects are very important when it comes to speaking. And that concept of their room, their room, their room, going into your room is what I was talking about before, where you want to get in the habit of speaking. It's not about selling your product. It's not about driving traffic to your business right away. It's just about getting into the habit of doing speaking and getting good at it, which eventually then when you do have a room of people that are there just for you, your speech is better refined and you're going to deliver it more effectively. So that's why it's really important. Before we go into some conversations about places and ways, and you mentioned one, which was Toastmasters, and I'll speak to that in a second. Before we shift into that part of the conversation of where do you actually go to find a way to speak. I just want to introduce, we have one more person come in. So Dr. Andy, if you want to say hello to the world, please come on in and say hi to everybody.
Sure. I don't want to interrupt the flow because this whole thing, NICU, is fascinating to me. But let me just say hi to everyone. Been gone for a few weeks. I happen to be at a location on Wednesdays that didn't allow me to access the internet strong enough to join you guys. But I'm glad to be back. Lots of really, really interesting things happening for me. Just the direction that business seems to be going. And even something happened today that at some point, if we have time, we would address Google Helpouts. Didn't even know what they were. Someone called to ask me if I could help them with it, and I kept saying, "You mean Google Hangouts?" And they kept saying, "No, Helpouts." And I'm like, and I'm going, "No, Google Hangouts." It was like a comedy routine, like who's on first, you know. But anyway, glad to be back, and I'm very fascinated about this because I love speaking, and I definitely don't get enough opportunities to do it in front of my target
You don't
audience.
take them. You will get them. You don't take them. That's
okay. I stand corrected. I don't take them, so I'm all ears today.
Excellent. We're glad to have you back. Welcome back. And there is a huge difference between Hangouts and Helpouts, and that we could reserve for some future.
Yeah.
Because it is actually an opportunity to deliver some of your coaching, especially if you're in a unique area. Helpouts could work out really well. But we're going to bring it back to the topic of this week, which is that idea of finding speaking opportunities. And I want to speak to that idea of Toastmasters because it is actually a really great place. If you're somebody, there's always this story that the largest fear after death is public speaking, and for some people that's even more than death for them. And Toastmasters is an international organization that helps people get better at speaking. And it works very well. You deliver brief, like 5-7 minute speeches. You just get used to presenting in front of an audience of very, very supportive, receptive people who can help you get better at it. Every speech I ever give, I usually give it first at a Toastmasters meeting to get a feel for it first, and then I can refine it before I'm going to ever present it publicly. The other side of that is there's also a lot of other opportunities where groups come together. There's most of the districts have conferences and there's trainings and things like that. So I'm scheduled to speak in June at a Toastmasters training event because I just have been at places. I've talked to folks. I gave them some feedback. I offered, hey, you guys are doing this training. I know you have a bunch of people who do. Who are responsible for public relations using social media. I know this. I can train your folks in social media. And they said, great, we're going to come in and teach. We want you to do it. And so it's a chance for me to refine my social media presentation, which I can take what I teach them for their clubs, tweak it a little bit, and use it for the small businesses I work with to give them an introduction to social media marketing. And I'm getting a chance to do it in front of a large audience of people who are going to give me positive and receptive feedback. It's a great opportunity, but that came about not because I just showed up to a meeting every once in a while, but because I was at other things. I heard this was an issue going on, and I went up to said, who's in charge? I'm willing to present this. So a lot of times, finding speaking opportunities involves asking for them, or at least offering your availability to be able to do them. And that was the first lesson I want everybody to take away from this is it's not, you can't just passively sit there and wait for people to come to your door and say, hey, will you speak? You've got to be willing to at least offer yourself as somebody who's available to do a speech in whatever it is that your ability, your niche, your talent is. So that's the first thing I want you guys to walk away with from today's Hangout. Ask, offer, make that offer available. Hey,
action. Come into action.
Yeah.
You have to take action. Sometimes people come to you and say, well, can you do something for me? Can you speak at so-and-so event? And then you it's like a measurement. Is it helping me in my business? I can speak forever about autism, but I don't want to. it is not in my field of interest. I don't want to share that with many unless this is some kind of voluntary or charity. That's something different. Charity, by the way, is a very good opportunity to speak. Because they're always searching for people who have something interesting to tell, make it interesting, fun, and unexpected, and they will ask you back for another event. So it's charity is a great thing. The Rotary here, we have, but what any kind of charity will do,
Robert, I know
make sure it is helping for you.
Yeah, and I know you've got some experience in that, Robert. You mentioned that, I think, even last week. Do you want to touch base on that a little bit, about the idea of service clubs and reaching out and what that's done and what is available off of that to build off of what Nika was just saying?
Sure, and I think service clubs like the Rotary or the Lions Club or Kiwanis or things like that are kind of a step beyond what, in my experience, mostly Toastmasters is. Toastmasters can lead to bona fide speaking opportunities, but pretty rarely. To me, it's more of a place to address the S in Ninka's EASE formula, where you really have an opportunity to build your skills, and you're surrounded by a bunch of speakers, so the chances of really getting speaking engagements. But a kind of a small step up from that is to take the kind of charity or service club kind of speaking arrangements. And there's a little bit of a danger there, because you can establish yourself as a free speaker, but at the same time, you know, sometimes in that audience at the charity event or in that audience at the service club, there is a person who's a business owner who may pay you to come in and speak, or a person who works for another organization that pays their speakers. So what I try to do is position myself not as a free speaker, but someone who is speaking free for a reason. If it's a cause that I really believe in, then that's a reason for me. You know, I can be a $10,000 speaker, but I'm speaking here today for free because I really believe in this cause. I can speak for a Rotary Club because my father and my grandfather were Rotarians, and the local Rotary Club has sponsored the soccer tournament that my daughter has played in, so I want to give back, and I'm here today to give back. But I think you do have to be a little bit careful about going out and doing a lot of free speeches and getting a reputation as someone who does free speeches, because you know, we all want to move in the direction of getting paid to speak. I think that's part of the topic today.
Yeah, and you're spot on with that. That is that danger of those free opportunities. Like this Toastmasters thing that I was talking about, where I'm doing a presentation on social media. I'm not getting paid for that. I'm doing it out of volunteer. But I have a membership site developed strictly for clubs to be able to take that knowledge and move it forward. And it's cheap. It's like $5 for them to join. But it's a service that I'm doing for that organization, but it gets them to know me, it gets them to know my membership club. I've actually gotten members in other, or like in another membership site that I have because of that involvement, and they're like, wow, this is great, what else do you teach? And then I can bring them into other realms. So I'm giving them free content to introduce them to something that's a fairly minor expense to then bring them through my funnel into those other higher end opportunities. So that's very important. But I love what you said, Robert, about framing it at the beginning. Like, I am donating my time. This is not what I usually do. Your club cannot afford my usual speaking fee, but I'm donating it as a gift to you guys because I know it can be what I have to say is of value to you. So they get that, like, no, you're not a free speaker. You get paid well for doing this.
Yeah, and if you do it on a free basis, a lot of negotiation space is there. So I can do it for free. Can I have the last 5 minutes to make an offer?
Right.
That's something that you can do, because then it's the back end for you. It's a free front end, but the back end product can be much more worth than your free speaking opportunity. But it's a negotiation part you have to be aware of. And if they say no, I tend to say, well, I can donate my time if it's something like a charity. But if it's just using me as a free speaker and I'm not allowed to do any kind of sales pitch for 5 minutes at the end or sell a product in the back of the room, it's a no. Because then it's a bit abusive. And your reputation about do you speak for free, it's at stake. So another thing, you have in America some organizations, speaking organizations for women. You have the organization like Speak Match.
I want to finish up what we're talking about service organizations.
Yeah.
Robert, I think you had one more thing that you wanted to say on that, so I want to make sure that we wrap up that section before we move on to other
Go
places.
on.
Well, I did. I wanted to, and I think for people who are listening in and are saying, well, that's all well and good, but I find myself in these conversations about, the client doesn't have a budget, and I don't know what to say. When they ask me what my fee is, what should I say? And I actually went through this with my wife not too long ago because she had the opportunity to do a presentation for an organization, and they wanted to know how much she charged, and she didn't have an established fee. And what I told her was, to some degree, it doesn't matter what your fee is, and as long as you follow it up with the question, does that fit in your budget? So I might be talking to an organization that I know for a fact doesn't really have a budget. And when they ask me what my fee is, I'm still going to tell them my speaking fee is $10,000. Does that fit in your budget? So at that moment, it doesn't matter what my fee is. It doesn't matter whether I'm going to get paid, excuse me, the $10,000 or not. But I've entered into a conversation with them about how we can potentially make it work. And like Ninka was saying, it may end up being a conversation that ends up with, no, I'm sorry, I can't do this. There's only going to be 12 people there. It's not an organization that I have any particular affinity to, and I can't sell or offer anything else that I do. That's probably a no. But if there's 200 people there and it's an organization that I really believe in and I can sell my books and my journals and offer coaching, then all of a sudden, even though they don't have a budget, maybe it looks like a really good opportunity for me. But that question, does that fit in your budget, is a very, very powerful question for people who have anxiety about their fee.
And I want to also really say something really quick, because I think you're spot on that. You need to be able to work within what people can afford, but you also want to honor where you're at and what you actually deserve to get. And we were talking about selling things at the back of the room and things like the other possible option that can be very beneficial is if you are speaking in front of a group that is related to what it is you do. One option is just using it as a list building opportunity. My list can be more valuable than a sale in a room. I'd rather not necessarily sell my books in the back of the room, but get the list of every one of those 200 people with the permission to be able to then add them into a nurture sequence based on what it is that I do. That's going to be long-term much higher value than quick money in the back of the room. So that's another way of thinking about how to do this in a way that's beneficial. It's not always about can you sell something, it's about can you either capture their information. I oftentimes I'll say, you know what, I don't want to sell, I don't want to do anything else. All I want to do is on my slide, I want to put a little header at the top that says, for more information about Sean, text blah, blah, blah to this number. And I just use text messaging to be able to capture people's contact information. And then I'm building my list. It's passive. I'm not even mentioning it. But I might have a room of 200. The people who are really interested in me are going to take that motion, and now I'm building a list of possible clients. So these are all things you can do when you're in front of a group like this to be able to make it valuable if it is an unpaid availability. And I'm going to be blunt with everybody who's watching this right now. You're going to start your first speeches without getting paid. You're not going to get paid $5,000 for the first time that you walk in front of an audience. I'm sorry to tell you that. That is the reality of the speaking world. You have to get used to doing it first before people will start paying you for it. Most people I know who can ask for that 5, 10, 15, more than that, thousands of dollars per speech, have a resume of here are all the groups I've spoken in front of that shows that they're worth that money to an organization who's got to decide to push out the money. You gotta make sure you're just getting in front of groups, and that's what I want to keep focusing in on. I'm not going to focus in on how to find the ideal, $10,000 client. We're just talking about how to get out there, because getting out there leads to those $5,000, $10,000 clients. So I just want you guys to be
visibility first. You have to be visible, or it's online, on Hangouts, on live events, or whatever. You have to be visible. Nobody is just waiting for a nobody to be on stage. It's just an illusion. It's daydream. I just mentioned Speaker Match. Do you know about Speaker Match? It's an organization searching for speakers, having job alerts. Most of the time, it's without any fee, or it is in a range of 0 to 500, 0 to, well, the most I've seen is at 10,000, and it's very, very exceptional to have such a high rate. If you want to happen to be in the United States and you want to be visible, a speaker match is a thing you can do. You have to apply. You can be a member, and you can all kind of levels. But it's an opportunity to be more visible and get used to that speaking as well. And mainly at our network meetings, conferences about specific fields.
Yeah, and I want to share something else that just came through. So on the event page, Rebecca Welch, who's watching the Hangout Live, she had mentioned that in addition to proactively looking for speaking opportunities, she's picked up several speaking gigs, both free and paid, from her LinkedIn profile. She says she specifically has the word speaker in the heading, and the second line in her profile is for speaking inquiries or to schedule a marketing strategy session, and then she puts in how much it costs. Only, please call, and then she puts a number for people to be able to contact her. So by making it, and that's using social media, by having your social media profiles clearly state you are a speaker, it does open up that opportunity. So I wanted to thank Rebecca for sharing that with us. That's a huge thing too. If you want to become a speaker, you got to own the fact that you're a speaker, and you got to make it known in every one of your profiles everywhere that is what you do. If
everywhere.
You're not going to get speaking gigs if your entire profile talks about how you are, a coach, and at the bottom it says, oh, by the way, I also speak sometimes. If you want me to come speak, contact. No one's going to care. Yeah. It's got to be up front, center, in people's, you got to own the fact that you are a speaker.
Yeah, it's your profession. You can coach, but if you want to be visible as a speaker, it's your profession to speak in front of an audience and help people from there. And coaching will be next.
Yeah, and I would totally agree with that syntax, because your speaking will add credibility to your coaching, but it doesn't necessarily work in the opposite direction where, if you promote yourself as a coach, it's not going to add much to your credibility as a speaker. I'd also like to go back to what Sean was saying about list building, which I think is a great thing to remember in terms of a reason to be in front of a group, and it's kind of a quantity-based reason. Like, if you have the opportunity to be in front of a group of a few hundred people, and a bunch of them are going to be interested in being on your list, that's great. But there's also a quantity or quality, rather, based approach to that, where you can look at who's there. The charity event that we were talking about might be, $500 a plate. So you've got really successful business people in the room, and it would only take one of those people to hear you speak and say, hey, this guy really knows what he's talking about. He could really help my sales team, or he could really help my leadership team, to make that free speaking engagement worth, every minute that you spent on it. So there's a quantity approach and also a quality approach as well.
Yeah, and you're spot on with that, Robert. And it's all experience. It's all getting out there. It's all getting in front of the right people. And I know a lot of people are thinking, well, that's great. Toastmasters, social media, Sean, so that's great. They can use your skill. That's helpful for them. That's not what I do. What I do doesn't have anything to do with helping move Toastmasters forward. Here's my other favorite way of at least getting practice in the world of speaking, and I think everybody's familiar with it, and it's meetups. Meetups are really, really good about listing their information, their opportunities, the meetups, based on niches, areas of interest. Find meetups that are in your same realm, and the same thing that you do in your niche, and go to them. My experience has been very simple. Meetups are usually run by one person who struggles to come up with something new every meeting to discuss, present, or talk about. If you go to a meetup, you interact the first time you're there, the first couple times you're there, and then at the end, go up to the person who's the organizer and say, hey, look, I'm also in this niche. If you ever want me to take one of these meetings and speak on a specific area, I'd love to. And eventually, you can either get to the point where you are co-running the meetup, or you are actually can take it over and be in charge, and all of that builds that aspect of credibility, and you're talking in front of other people who have an interest in your niche already. And that's the reason why I love finding things like Meetup that are absolutely niche specific to what it is that you do. You found your interested audience, and usually people go to Meetup because they want to learn more about whatever that area or that topic or that niche is. If you're one of the people at the front of the room presenting, you are now, in their eyes, an expert in that, and that's where that next step of practicing in front of people to actually being asked to speak on behalf. I've spoken at businesses because of that. Hey, can you come to our business and do this talk? It works because people are like, wow, you really do know what you're talking about. I'm part of this organization. Will you come and present for us? That kind of stuff really does work because they, A, see you as an expert, and B, you're speaking to people who are interested in what you're an expert on.
Yeah, can I add something, Sean? What's very wise to do is, if you are on any kind of speaking opportunity, record yourself on video, tape everything, because you can just take snippets of your what you really good phrases or really nice interaction or whatever. You can use it in your branding. You can use it in with little videos on your website. You can do whatever. Just use it as your branding, little snippets. Don't put 1.5 hour videos on, but just a snippet of real cool stuff which you're really satisfied of really had a great result with your audience. It's really powerful to use that to be seen, if just the visibility again for you as a speaker. And it doesn't matter if you're an ice skate coach or you are Dr. Alan Warnstein, or it doesn't matter who you are. We take over his voice because he has a sore throat. Hi, Alan. But it's really helpful. Also, Hangouts or webinars. It's really helpful. If you practice on that, you get used to the talking. You get used to how to use your voice in front of no matter who it is, but somebody's watching, apart from the mirror.
Yeah, one of the things that I've been able to really develop is my ability to moderate a conversation because of the way I run these Hangouts. It's not me presenting and pretending I have wisdom. It's me helping to keep a intention, sometimes not as effectively as I'd like, but usually keeping a conversation moving in a direction based on what it is that we're discussing that week, but also letting everybody feel like they're being heard, giving everybody a chance to contribute, calling on people like Dr. Allen in just a minute so that he can at least introduce himself, even though he's got a sore throat today. And that's the idea of honoring everybody who's here, letting everybody participate and interact. This is a skill I've developed by doing these Hangouts. And I've also done presentation Hangouts where for 1 hour I am just doing training and teaching, and I've got all my flip cards and I'm going through them and I'm presenting the whole thing over an hour's period. I've done those as well, and that's great because that gets me used to doing it on stage, where instead of a note card I would be writing up on a flip chart. Same idea, same presentation. Yeah. It's that experience of doing it over and over matters. So before we go into other thoughts from other folks, Dr. Allen, do you want to do a quick hello? I know you throat sore.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks. I'm Dr. Alan Weinstein. For some reason, I'm late as usual today to this thing, but I have a hangout right before this hangout, which always runs over, so I apologize for that. And I wanted to just add that I might be the exception to the rule here, because I never do speaking engagements. It's very rare I do any. I might do one a year, and that's only because I can't get out of it. And I don't, although I recognize the value of speaking engagements, they're not on my list of important things for me to do to build my business or to really expand my business. And I try to do all of my relationships and speaking either in a hangout like this one or one-on-one with clients. So for those people that don't like to travel, of which I don't, for those people that don't like to leave home, which I don't, there is alternatives to building your business. So I just wanted to throw that in there while I was introducing myself.
Well, and I love that. I think that's a really important point to make. We're talking about finding speaking opportunities because that came up as one way of getting yourself out there and being known, especially if really what you want to do is coaching. If coaching is really what you want to do, and you want to coach to a specific group of people in a specific way, the speaking is a cost-efficient way of getting yourself in front of lots of possible clients. That's the reason we're discussing it. But this does not mean, if you're sitting there as somebody who does coaching and you're absolutely horrified of the idea of speaking, we are not saying you have to do speaking in order to grow your coaching business. This is one approach, because the question had come up, how do we get out there without having to pay for it? And this is one way. So if really your goal is to just grow your coaching program, then the free speeches are perfect for you, and you're not worrying about how do you set your price range and how do you do, what are you going to sell in the back of the room and anything else other than say, oh, and by the way, I'm a coach, if you'd love to learn more about coaching, and you give them some kind of action to take. That kind of stuff works great, and if you're good at, if you do the speaking and you deliver content that's valuable, that's going to enhance your ability to get people in as a coach because they see that you deliver value. That's the reason this topic is going on, but I'm glad Dr. Allen said that, because speaking is not mandatory for growing your coaching business. It's one vehicle for growing your coaching business. So I think that's a really important thing to say. Go ahead, Dr.
And if I could add one thing to that also, because we talk about you don't have to be a great tennis player to coach someone in tennis. You don't have to be a great figure skater to teach someone how to figure skate, to coach someone in figure skate. And interestingly enough, I teach all the time people how to do speaking presentations, even though I don't like to travel to go speaking. So you could still be a coach and coach people on speaking, and I have an entire thing I lay out for people on how to be given effective speech, and I've given some very effective speeches, but it's not my thing. I don't like doing it, and so why do something I don't like?
Exactly. This is the whole point of all of this. Every conversation we ever have in the realm of coaching is it should always be something that you want to be doing. If speaking is of no interest to you, we're glad you hung out with us anyway and you learned some interesting stuff. You don't have to do it. It's a matter of doing it, but don't just hide from it. It is a skill that is beneficial. Doing speaking can make you a more effective coach just because you get better at communicating. Mm-hmm. So there's benefits to it, but in no way are we saying this is mandatory, but it is very beneficial for you as a person, but also for your coaching program if that's what you want to do. That's all I wanted to say on that. I'm going to just open it back up. Other ways you can find speaking opportunities. We've talked about a few. I'd love to hear other ideas that are out there.
Can I just
add something? Who is first? you go first.
Go to you, Nico.
I'm going first?
Yeah, go ahead, Robert.
I just really wanted to piggyback. I think it's kind of ironic that Dr. Allen brought this up by saying he doesn't want to speak, but it really does reconnect us to the power of speaking as a way to promote us as coaches, because when someone hires us as a coach, especially if we want to be an in-demand, well-paid coach, we do have to be able to build really good rapport. And it's very difficult to do that in writing. It's difficult to do that just with an audio, with a phone call or an audio recording. I think it's still pretty difficult even with video, and it's easier than any other way if people have the chance to connect with you in person. So I think, Sean, you hit the nail on the head. If someone makes a conscious choice that they don't want to do speaking, that's fine. But if they're hiding from speaking, if they're resistant to speaking, if they have a fear of speaking, they may very well be missing out on their very best opportunity to build their coaching practice by having people develop rapport with them that just can't be built over the phone or on a Hangout or in writing.
Yeah, you're spot on, and it is very important. I encourage everyone to do some form of speaking, no matter what it is, where it is, how it is. Do some form. It will benefit you, even if it's speaking on a Hangout like this. But Dr. Robert's spot on. There you go. I have given you your doctor to get it done.
The doctor title, yeah.
But it's absolutely imperative. There's a huge difference between doing something in front of a live audience and doing it not in a different format. You want to get in front of live audiences whenever you can. It will make you better across the board in many ways. And I know, Nika, you said you had something to say, and then we'll come over to you.
Yep. Get back to coaching and speaking. What works very, very powerful and sets you as an authority on the spot is coaching on the spot when you're speaking. Just if you can get somebody from the audience and coach on the spot, and show what you're capable of, just in a safe way, of course. But just get somebody, just watch a TEDx video about how do you shake hands. You know, just get somebody from the audience and show what you can do. Body language is also something, but it doesn't matter what your topic is. If you can share something with somebody from the audience and show on the spot what you're capable of, it's really powerful, and you will be asked back in another situation, because other people want that too. Wow, this is great. If he can do or she can do it over here, I want that in my audience as well. And it really helps you to get in other stages as well.
Yeah. Excellent. And Dr. Allen, you had something as well, so I want to share that. But you're right. If you can take a second to show what it is that your benefit as a coach on stage in front of folks with a live human being, that's extremely powerful. Go ahead, Dr. Allen.
Well, I wanted to just share what I teach my coaching clients about public speaking, because it might be beneficial at this point. And I certainly didn't want to give the impression that I'm not a good public speaker. I just don't like to travel. So it's a traveling issue, not a speaking issue. But the first thing I tell my clients about speaking, and I recommend they all do go out in the community at least and speak, is number one, it's not about public speaking, it's about public leadership. There's a difference between the two. It's taking people from point A to point B. It's about stories. It's about questions. It's about you being the message. And I always tell them that, sorry, if you don't share your story with the marketplace, don't worry, the marketplace will make up stories about you.
Yeah. Great.
And that is so spot on. Like, one way or the other, they're going to hear about you and what it is you do, and it's either coming from you or it's coming from everybody else, and it might as well be from you, because then you can control this. You can control the media, which is, anybody who's in the world of media and marketing knows you want to control your message as much as you possibly can, and that happens by you being out there more often than anything else. And so I think that's a really good point. Thanks, Dr. Allen.
That supports the theme that we talked about a few weeks ago around brand. If you don't take control of your brand, somebody else will.
Exactly.
Somebody else will create the brand that they think you are.
Yep.
That's why you've got to create your own brand about who you are and who you want to be.
And it does come back to knowing your brand. Like, if you're going to be out there and you're going to be telling the world, this is who I am, this is what I am as you know, a coach, as a speaker, as whatever it is, this is what I do. You need to know what that is. You need to be clear on that. You need to be able to express it, because otherwise you're going to be running into challenges and problems with that. So
that's why it's very important to have it aligned with your brand and your speaking opportunity. So if I go to the whatever, I don't know, the pond fishing club or whatever, and it's about public speaking, and they just want to talk about fish, well, it's no match. It has to be in line with what your brand is, and has to be a fit. So knowing who your target audience is and what fits with your brand is very important when you go out to speak, no matter where you do, if paid opportunity, charity or voluntarily, whatever, but it has to be for a reason and a good fit. It has to build your brand and strengthen your brand as well.
Yeah, and so, but I also want to make sure people get this. Just because the audience is not 100% perfectly aligned with what it is you do does not mean it's not a good audience for you. Just like Robert was saying with the charity speeches, you may be there talking about a charity that has nothing to do with what it is that you do in your business, but there may be people in there who can afford to drop a $10,000 check to have a skilled speaker come to whatever it is they do. And therefore, you don't want to just say, well, this isn't 100% in alignment, I'm going to skip it. You don't want to waste your time on things that are completely off base.
That's what I mean. That's what I mean.
Also make sure that, but you also don't want to use that as an excuse. And I know that's not what you were saying to just,
no.
But I wanted to make sure people heard that clearly, is that's an easy excuse of, oh, I'm not going to take this opportunity because it's not 100% aligned. Well, you know what? Take the opportunity. and find a way to make it aligned if you can. I mean, there are times that you clearly know this just isn't worth your time, but I default to taking more opportunities than the ones I say no to, except for the point where you get to the point where you are making, people can afford and you're getting those offers at your full speaking price. Then you don't have to do as many of the free opportunities, because you might do them as charity work then instead of getting your word out. But when you're starting out, take as many opportunities as you can. You want the practice.
Practice, practice, practice.
Yes. So we're at about 45 minutes. This is usually where somebody has an unbelievably brilliant brainstorm on what next week's topic will be. So I'm going to float that out there and see, does anybody have any possible thoughts, ideas, topics that they might want to talk about next week? Dr. Allen, I see the hand raised. What's your thought for next week?
Well, since we're talking about public speaking, I was thinking maybe we would talk about what makes a good public speech and what are some of the mistakes that people make when they make a public speech.
So I'm going to spin that slightly to keep it in the realm of coaching and not drift into this becoming a speaker's hangout necessarily.
Good deal.
But what I'm gonna do is good content versus bad content.
Okay.
Because I think that can be true in your coaching program as well as speeches that you're writing or anything else along those lines. Are you delivering quality, good, beneficial content, or are you just giving a bunch of stuff just to fill time, or because you think it sounds cool but it doesn't actually help the person move forward? So next week's topic is good content versus bad content. And it can be part of what you're talking about there, but I also want to open it up to just generally everything that is coaching related as well. I do attempt to make these semi-relevant to coaching as often as possible.
Well, it can be everywhere. It can be the written content, can be the speaking content. Doesn't matter what, as long as it's about your coaching brand and what's crap and what's beneficial to your audience, coachees or whatever.
So I think it's a great topic, and I'm glad you brought it up, Dr. Allen. I think it's spot on. This is a great thing for us. So next week we're going to talk about that distinction: good content versus bad content. How do you know it's good? How do you know it's bad? How do you avoid the bad? What are some of the easy mistakes most people make that you can quickly fix for yourself? Those kind of things. We'll talk about all that next week. I think that's good. We're at that point where it's about the top of the hour. We always like to give everybody a chance to just share any last thoughts, ideas, insights, ahas, wows, whatever you want to call them, from today's hangout. So I'm just going to go left to right. It's the easiest way. So Dr. Randy, you're going to be up first if you want to unmute yourself and just go ahead and share any last ideas, thoughts, insights. It looks like you may be unavailable, so we're going to skip Dr. Randy. We're going to go over to Dr. Allen. Dr. Allen, do you want any last things that you want to share with everyone?
Well, I would just say that no matter what you're doing, when it comes to coaching, speaking, it doesn't matter. It's not what you say, it's what you're doing.
It's not what you say, it's what you're doing. Makes sense. It's the words help, but it's what the words are delivering that matter. Gotcha. Understood. Spot on. How about you, Nick? Any last thoughts, things that you want to share?
Well, I just want to add on that. I call it the Speaker Success Circle, and it's only 10% of the content, the words, what matters. The body can speak so loudly you can hardly hear a word you say. It's a 20% voice use, it's 70% body language, it's 10% content. What makes you to a successful speaker, whatever. It has to be 100% one way or the other. That's a thing what I just want to add from Dr. Allen. And just the way of practicing, and just go out and do it. No matter it's a hangout, no matter it's a webinar or a live event, just practice. And if you're not sure if you are able to make the real speaker engagement, begin with just engaging yourself and practice in front of the mirror and dare to look yourself into the eyes without any judgment. It's really helpful, powerful.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to build off that really quick. There's the editor of, I was listening to an audio from the editor of Success Magazine, and he was talking about the fact that people ask him, how do you get paid that much money for your presentations? And his response was, I don't get paid that much money for the hour I'm on stage. I get paid that much money for the 20 hours that go into me preparing for that hour on stage. So there is that responsibility of putting in the effort behind the scenes. So that's spot on. Robert, your turn, sir.
Yeah, I'd just like to do an add-on as well. We were talking about connecting with groups and how valuable that can be, and kind of selection criteria for groups, and I would just kind of warn people against hanging out with groups of other speakers and coaches, because if you're really looking for ways to build your business, it can be a very comfortable place to hang out, but in my experience it's not a very good place to hang out in terms of getting good quality referrals, because you're hanging out with people who are looking for the same kind of business you are. So branching out and connecting with groups that are not groups of speakers and coaches.
Yeah. Those groups are great if you want to develop your skills or learn from other people, but that is not the place to get practice at presenting your material, because that's not what you're looking for. Spot on, Robert. I love that little caveat. Thank you for that. Wendy, your chance for last words.
I just think that public speaking is an opportunity to really reach the masses. It's a powerful vehicle for reaching the masses and getting your message out to the world, and having a bigger impact and leaving a bigger footprint.
And I completely agree with you. It's a chance to be seen. The more eyeballs you can get in front of, the better. It's one of the great ways. And I don't remember who said it, but they talked about recording. Any speaking presentation you do, always record it. Don't just record it, post it. Stick it up on YouTube. This was me presenting in front of XYZ. With some organizations, you need that permission before you do it. You need to let them know you're going to be recording your speech and posting it publicly, but very rarely do you ever get somebody who says, no, you can't do that. Post it, repurpose it, send it out there. Michelle Townsend was talking about that in the chat, about how they're doing a video blogging. It's the easiest thing to repurpose. It's what gets attention. Even if they don't watch your full hour presentation, you still can then pull a really great 2-minute bit out of it and start using it as part of your press roll. Record everything. It's always got value in it. You're going to learn how to become a better speaker because you're going to see the things you do badly, and you're also just getting the word out more and more, like Wendy was saying. So that's the big takeaway for me. Record every presentation you give. You're going to get better. Thanks, everybody, for being here. I thought this was, once again, as always, fabulous Hangouts. They always are. Next week, we're going to be talking good content versus bad content. I had to go look to make sure I got it right. And I will see you all next Wednesday, same bat time, same bat channel. Thanks, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Thanks, everyone. Have a good week.